Good day, investors. In this video, we will take a closer look at Rigetti Computing, ticker symbol RGTI. Rigetti just reported its first quarter earnings results, and the company continues showing strong momentum across quantum hardware, system scaling, and commercial deployments. During the quarter, Rigetti launched its new 108-qubit Cepheus quantum system across multiple platforms, and management says this is currently the industry's largest modular quantum computing system. Revenue also increased significantly year over year, driven by growing customer deployments and new on-premises system sales. At the same time, Rigetti ended the quarter with roughly $569 million in cash and investments and no debt. So in this video, we'll break down the earnings, look at the fundamentals and growth drivers, discuss the valuation, and finally, I'll give you my personal opinion on the stock going forward. But before we get into it, remember to leave a like for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe for more upcoming investing videos. Thank you very much. So before moving further into the details, management highlighted three major milestones that really defined the quarter for Rigetti. First, the company officially brought its new 108-qubit system into general availability across multiple platforms, giving customers broader access to Rigetti's highest qubit count quantum system so far. Second, customer adoption continued expanding across both cloud and on-premises deployments, which helped support strong year-over-year revenue growth during the quarter. And third, Rigetti continued executing on its long-term technology roadmap, including ongoing fidelity improvements and scaling progress, while still maintaining a very strong balance sheet with no debt. And when we look at the actual system performance improvements, we can see Rigetti continuing to make solid progress on both scale and fidelity. The company says its latest system now has roughly 3 times more qubits and chiplets compared to the prior generation, while still maintaining around 99.1% median 2-qubit gate fidelity. Along with gate speeds of around 60 nanoseconds, Rigetti also reported approximately 99.9% median single-qubit gate fidelity, which is important because improving fidelity and reducing errors remains one of the biggest challenges in quantum computing. And management says the focus going forward remains on continuing these fidelity improvements throughout 2026. Another important development during the quarter was the expansion of access to Rigetti's new 108-qubit system. The system is now available through Rigetti Quantum Cloud Services, Amazon Bracket, Microsoft Azure Quantum, and QBraid, which allows researchers and developers to access the system through platforms already widely used for both classical and quantum computing research. Management also highlighted that this is currently the first gate-based quantum system on Amazon Bracket, with more than 100 qubits. And broader access like this could help accelerate future quantum computing use cases across areas like materials science optimization and quantum simulation. We also continue seeing customer adoption expand across multiple channels. Management highlighted growing cloud interest from both researchers and enterprise users, while on-premises Novera systems also continued expanding across research and education customers. Rigetti specifically highlighted its recent deployment with the University of Saskatchewan, which supports additional quantum research and education use cases. And overall, the company's product portfolio now ranges from smaller 9-qubit systems all the way to systems with more than 100 qubits, giving Rigetti exposure across a broader range of customers and quantum computing applications going forward. And when looking at the roadmap going forward, management remains heavily focused on improving fidelity while continuing to scale its systems to much larger qubit counts. In the near term, Rigetti is targeting roughly 99.5% median 2-qubit gate fidelity later this year, which would represent another meaningful improvement in overall system performance. Longer term, the company continues working towards scaling its chiplet-based architecture beyond 1,000 qubits. Rigetti is also continuing to integrate more error correction-ready capabilities across its systems, which is critical for eventually achieving practical large-scale quantum computing. And finally, management says its planned UK investment initiative should help support the next phase of system scaling and long-term quantum development. And when looking at Rigetti's financial position, the company still appears to be in a relatively strong position financially compared to many early-stage quantum computing companies. Rigetti ended the quarter with roughly $569 million in cash, cash equivalents, and investments, while also having zero debt outstanding, giving the company a very long runway to continue investing into its long-term quantum computing roadmap. Management says the company continues focusing its R&D spending on fidelity improvements, scaling, error correction, and overall platform development. The company is also continuing to invest into Fab 1 and additional dilution refrigeration capacity, which should help support future system scaling and development going forward. And when summarizing the overall quarterly results, revenue came in at around $4.4 million, primarily driven by Novera system deliveries and customer deployments during the quarter. The company also reported GAAP net income of around $33 million, while non-GAAP net loss improved slightly year over year to around $14.7 million. Gross margin came in at approximately 31%, which management says was impacted by the overall contract mix during the quarter. And once again, the biggest financial strength here remains the balance sheet. With roughly $569 million in cash and investments and zero debt, giving Rigetti significant runway to continue executing on its technology roadmap and future system deployments going forward. So after looking at the earnings numbers, it's also important to understand the long-term growth drivers for Rigetti and where the company is trying to position itself within the quantum computing industry. Because right now, this is still a very early stage company, and the entire investment thesis really comes down to whether Rigetti can continue improving its technology and eventually scale toward commercially useful quantum computing. And one of the biggest growth drivers for the company is clearly its technology roadmap. According to Rigetti's latest investor presentation, the company is targeting a path from its current systems toward more than 1,000 qubits over the next several years, while also improving gate fidelity and reducing error rates. Management believes achieving both higher qubit counts and better fidelity is critical for eventually reaching what's called quantum advantage, which is basically the point where quantum computers can solve problems that classical computers struggle to handle efficiently. And what makes Rigetti particularly interesting here is its chiplet-based architecture. Instead of trying to build one giant quantum chip, Rigetti is using smaller, interconnected chiplets that can be tiled together into larger systems. The company recently introduced its 108-qubit Cepheus system, which currently represents one of the largest modular quantum computing systems in the industry. And management sees this modular approach as one of the key ways to eventually scale toward thousands of qubits. Another major growth driver is Rigetti's vertically integrated business model. The company owns and operates its own quantum chip fabrication facility called Fab 1, which management believes gives Rigetti a competitive advantage by speeding up development cycles and improving manufacturing control. And in quantum computing, faster iteration cycles can be extremely important because the industry is still evolving very rapidly. Rigetti is also continuing to expand its partnerships and ecosystem. The company already works with organizations like AWS, Microsoft Azure, NVIDIA, DARPA, Fermilab, and several government and research institutions. And these partnerships are important because they help validate the technology while also expanding access to Rigetti's systems through cloud platforms and research collaborations. Another interesting trend here is the growing overlap between AI and quantum computing. Rigetti recently highlighted collaborations using AI-powered calibration tools to help optimize quantum systems more efficiently. So over time, AI could potentially help accelerate quantum hardware development itself. The company is also pushing further into quantum error correction, which is considered one of the biggest technical challenges in the entire industry, because quantum systems are extremely sensitive to noise and instability. And if companies can successfully improve error correction, that could dramatically increase the real-world usefulness of these systems. Rigetti is currently working with partners like Riverlane and the UK National Quantum Computing Centre on these technologies. And finally, the overall market opportunity here could become enormous if quantum computing eventually scales commercially. Rigetti references estimates showing the quantum computing market could eventually create hundreds of billions of dollars in economic value over the long term. Of course, this still remains a highly speculative industry. The technology is still early, commercial adoption remains limited, and profitability is likely still years away. But if Rigetti can continue executing on its roadmap, improve fidelity, scale qubit counts, and maintain its position in superconducting quantum computing, then the company could potentially become one of the major players in the long-term quantum computing market. So after looking at the earnings and long-term growth drivers for the company, let's now take a look at what analysts currently expect from Rigetti stock going forward. According to stock analysis data, analysts currently have a consensus strong buy rating on the stock, with an average price target of around $31 per share, which implies potential upside of nearly 49% from current levels. Analyst targets currently range from around $15 on the low end all the way up to $43 on the high end, indicating a potential upside of more than 100% from current levels, which really highlights how volatile and speculative the quantum computing space still is right now. But overall, analysts continue seeing significant long-term upside potential for Rigetti if the company can successfully execute on its roadmap going forward. And when looking at the stock performance, Rigetti stock is currently trading around $20 per share, giving the company a market cap of roughly $6.8 billion. The stock has been extremely volatile over the past year, at one point rallying above $50 per share before pulling back significantly. Even after the pullback, however, the stock is still up around 93% over the past 12 months. And despite the strong run over the past year, the stock is currently trading much closer to the lower end of its 52-week range compared to its previous highs, potentially indicating a more attractive buying opportunity at a lower valuation compared to earlier peaks. So when we bring everything together, Rigetti continues making solid progress across quantum hardware, system scaling, fidelity improvements, and customer adoption. The company is also continuing to strengthen its position within the quantum computing industry through its chiplet-based architecture and expanding cloud availability. At the same time, Rigetti still remains a highly speculative and high-risk investment. The company is not profitable yet, commercial adoption is still early, and the stock will likely remain very volatile going forward. But in my opinion, Rigetti still looks like one of the more interesting long-term opportunities in the quantum computing space right now, especially if the company can continue executing on its roadmap and eventually scale toward practical, large-scale quantum computing over the next several years. If you found this video helpful, remember to leave a like for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to the channel for more upcoming investing videos. And as always, remember to do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions. Thank you for watching, and happy investing.